Another day, another failure in Capcom's attempts at a successful Resident Evil multiplayer game. What is up, guys? Andy here from Biohazard Declassified, and let's talk about Resident Evil Reverse.
Biohazard.
So this news comes to us from Wario64. It was also reported on Capcom's main site. And basically, it's the end of service. They're going to be terminating Resident Evil Reverse on June the 29th, 2025. You will lose all access to Reverse on that date. Obviously, there's been microtransactions and battle passes and all that. Cease, nil, gone. There's no single player element of Reverse anyway. That's it. The service is finished. And I don't want to rub salt in the wound or anything like that, but I immediately jumped over this and I was like, LOL, I'll be covering this in a video soon. Hello. Utter failure, doomed to fail from the start. What a waste of everybody's time. I know that seems harsh. I know people worked on it. And yes, of course, it's always sad when a multiplayer service gets shut down. But the best way to articulate Resident Evil Reverse is doomed to fail from the start. You look at this and you think, oh my God. This is an amalgamation of the best 30 years of Resident Evil, characters, enemies, maps, etc. This is going to be fantastic. And that's how it was pitched to us. If you looked at that original trailer, it was an amalgamation, a celebration of 30 years of Resident Evil. And this was very frustrating because this did come off the back of Resident Evil Resistance, which did come out in 2020. It was meant to be this 4 versus 1 asymmetric multiplayer, meant to be a Dead by Daylight killer. And the real irony of all of this is they put all this together and then ended up making content for Dead by Daylight anyway. What on earth is that, Capcom? Talking about killing your game. I don't know why they did that, but the reason why I'm bringing up Resistance is because they did not learn the lessons of Resistance when they put together Reverse. And I think they actually made it even worse than Resistance. I wouldn't be shocked if there's more players on Resistance than there is on Reverse. So why did Reverse so spectacularly fail over the last couple of years? Because remember, it's not been out that long. I think it's only been out like 2 years or something like that, if that, or maybe just over 2 years. So initially, what I picked up on, didn't learn the lesson from Resistance. This came packaged with Resident Evil Village. You couldn't get this game without Resident Evil Village, and Resistance was the same thing. I don't know why they did that, and it's especially interesting on Reverse because it didn't launch when Village dropped. So Village dropped back in, 2021. And this game had a beta. I think it was like would have been early 22 maybe, or might have been late 21. And that's when I initially played it. And they couldn't even get that right, by the way. There was tons of issues with all the servers. And actually, I couldn't get into a game. I remember none of the boys could get into a game either. So it was all, and you couldn't even join. That was it. If I remember, on the initial beta, you couldn't even join up together. You had to like all press find game at the same time and hope that you found it. So they even botched a beta of a free beta that they put out to like PS5, Xbox One, etc. I think the only platform that was working fine from memory was like Xbox One. Like Steam was just not working, and PS5 wasn't working for PS4 at the time, wasn't working. So again, very interesting that they went down that route. But yeah, it didn't end up launching until 18 months after Resident Evil Village, which is puzzling. And I really believe that there's an ulterior motive here, because on the back of Resident Evil Village, it like announced Reverse. So if you couldn't get access to that, I mean, there's grounds for mis-selling in my opinion. I'm not a solicitor or a lawyer or anything like that, but surely that's grounds for a mis-sell. Like, you can't launch a game and then never launch a multiplayer component. I mean, you've purchased that game with the intention of playing that. I mean, I would have thought that would open Capcom up to litigation they didn't need. So maybe that's, and again, that's a working hypothesis, that maybe Capcom were like, we have to put this game out, because if we don't, we're just going to get sued for not launching this game. So we might as well launch whatever we have. But I actually did enjoy RE-verse. That's the real bad part of it. I really enjoyed RE-verse for what it was. This kind of 4x4 multiplayer, PvP. It was kind of cool in concept. Again, I do not understand why Capcom have a hard-on for making multiplayer games that aren't fundamentally Resident Evil. They tried this weird Spec Ops approach with Operation Raccoon City. Then they try Resistance, which is meant to be that Dead by Daylight killer. Then they try RE-verse, which is kind of its own thing, really. This weird 4x4 Gears of War multiplayer situation. I think, guys, like, fucking play to your strengths, bro. Like, if I wanted to play Call of Duty, I'll go and play Call of Duty. If I want to play Gears of War, I'll go play Gears of War. And hell, if I want to go play Dead by Daylight, I'm not going to play Resident Evil Resistance, because that's what they do well, and they do really well. I'm not playing Call of Duty with the intention of it being like Resident Evil. And if Call of Duty or Dead by Daylight make a Resident Evil-esque game, they're not going to do it better than Capcom. They're not going to do it better than Dev 1, you know? So play to your strengths, boys. Stay in your own lanes, because every time they have done this, they have fundamentally failed. But anyway, moving swiftly on, it takes 18 months for RE-verse to come out. And by that time, it's dead in the water. So the second it comes out, the bonus I think they had of it was crossplay. And I was like, do you know what? If this game launches without crossplay, it is already dead before it's out, dead on arrival. And then it launches, and it's just like, it's really fun to play, but it's just, there's like 2 maps or something like that, and not many characters. And I'm like, man, I'm hoping over time it's just gonna, you know, they're gonna add more features to this, because they had like a battle pass system, and you'd think that oh right, well, over time this is a really good opportunity. They could put, like, I don't know, the mansion in there. I mean, Umbrella Corps had more maps than RE-verse, which is crazy, which is absolutely insane. I would have thought they would have just kept throwing you into all these unique situations, because you've got to think, how many games are on the RE engine now? Many games are on the RE engine. This is an opportunity to just port the maps into this area. There's so many cool locations in Resident Evil 2, 3, 7, Village, which they could have adopted for RE-verse. They just didn't try. I'm sorry. Poor effort, gang. Absolutely poor effort. So it's super repetitive. I felt like, to be honest, Resistance had a better roadmap, like in terms of the DLC release. Like, I felt like that had so much content dropping on it, and this really didn't. They really didn't try with this. I'm sorry, guys. They really didn't. Interestingly enough, I thought, saving grace. What if they drop some iconic characters? Remember, this is a celebration of 30 years of Resident Evil characters, enemies, blah, blah, blah. And they did a couple of like Tyrant skins, which is cool. A lot of it was skins, but really what we want is characters. Carlos Oliveira, Marvin Branner, Robert Kendo, etc. Ben Bertolucci. Iconic characters. Forrest. Anyone, throw him into the game. Have a bit of fun. You know, this is a chance to create a non-serious Resident Evil game. Just throw shit on the wall and see what sticks, for fuck's sake. But anyway, so I can't even believe this, man. So yes, they finally start putting some new characters in there. So, and I was like, do you know what? I just want to refresh myself. So shout out to Resident Evil Wiki. He's always in my streams. Huge shout out to that, man. He's always dropping in, and we're always talking a load of shit about Resident Evil. But yeah, he's provided like a comprehensive list of all the updates. Again, it's all really small stuff. So I thought, oh yeah, this is how I remember it. New playable characters. Sweet. Okay, cool. Charlie Graham, who has the call sign. I can't remember what his call sign is. It's not jumping out at me. K9. Okay, Charlie Graham, K9. Rolando Elba, Umber Eyes. John Perlman, Lobo. Dion Wilson, Night Howl. These were all of your additional characters for RE-verse. A bunch of Village fucking Howl Wolf Squad NPCs. What is Capcom thinking, man? Honestly, there's better content releases for Dead by Daylight. And that's not even a Capcom game. They've licensed Resident Evil characters and enemies for that. Yet the official all singing, all dancing Resident Evil multiplayer game is a bunch of NPCs, no one, let's be honest, no one cares about. When we think of Resident Evil, we don't think of Umber Eyes. When we think of Resident Evil and its iconic moments, we don't think of Lobo. What is going on? This is what I'm saying, guys. Doomed from the start, and it's just such a waste of time. Because, you know, we're really passionate as Resident Evil fans. We want to see Resident Evil in any capacity succeed. Because if they succeed, it means they're going to make more games and they're going to see it as profitable and we're going to have a better roadmap of content. They just didn't even try with Resistance. And that is what is so frustrating. And the final death knell for REverse, outside of all of these issues, was they did not make it free to play. Exactly the same as Resistance. Resistance is on borrowed time as well, if it's not already dead. It's been a while since I played it. But they need to make the games free to play for there to be any opportunity of it succeeding. Why isn't it free to play? Why can't they just... It's been long enough. Just detach it from Village, detach Resistance from RE3, and just launch them as their own standalone games. Let's be honest, that's how it is. They're the standalone games anyway. This doesn't resemble anything from Village or RE3 with Resistance. They're their own games. Why not just make them free to play? Give that injection of... And that will 100%, that'll bring more people to Resident Evil in the long run. If they just make it free to play, you know, they can already start cashing in with the transactions. It's just a missed opportunity. I don't know why that hasn't been explored, but you know, that's it. Like, if they have they ever do this again, they should make it free to play. Absolutely make it free to play. And Resistance specifically, because I'm pretty sure that's not been cancelled. That's on fucking borrowed time. Let me tell you. And I know people might say, oh, that's really sad that Resistance is shutting down. Well, no, it's not. Look at this. This is one of Capcom's biggest IPs, Resident Evil, and 43 players. 70 players have been on in its peak. And that's a little bit skewed, to be honest. Look at this gain. Look at this gain. The only reason why it's gained is because it's being cancelled. You look at the last quarter. No, October, November, December. 14 people have been playing REverse. Absolutely shocking. No wonder this game is getting cancelled. It's costing Capcom more to keep the fucking lights on than to keep the game alive. You know, it's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. No wonder it's being cancelled. So what do Capcom do now? They've seen the writing on the wall. They've pulled the plug. No doubt they will do the same for Resistance unless they inject something into it. I would suggest free to play, and maybe develop some more content for it to incentivize people to get the supply boxes. Maybe some dedicated servers for Resistance would be good. I remember it being absolutely dog shit every time I played because it was peer to peer, and I'd connect with someone who lives on fucking Pluto, and I'd be rubber banding all over the place. And of course, the mastermind. I think the signal's based on, the peer-to-peer host is based on their connections. The mastermind always has like the worst fucking 2G signal you've ever experienced. So maybe that's a little correction I'd make to that. But what do Capcom do now? Well, I posted about this straight away afterwards, and I said, hey Capcom, now you've stopped messing around with multiplayer Resident Evil games that nobody is interested in playing, it's time to get serious. Resident Evil Outbreak. This is what they've tried to make a success in the Resident Evil space. It's games that aren't Resident Evil. Well, guess what? Outbreak is Resident Evil. Now, whether that's a port of the old Outbreak or a brand new Outbreak on the Resident Evil RE engine, now's the time. Now's the time to do it. Cut your fucking losses on everything else. If you're going to make a multiplayer game, pour time and effort into an old school style Resident Evil game. Even if you make it kind of like, you know what kind of Resident Evil 2 remake did for single player survival horror? Even if you make it that style and there's 4 of you, you've already got the assets, bruv. Just put something coherent together and the community will eat it up like fucking dogs and peanut butter. I'm not joking you. I'm really, really passionate about seeing Capcom finally return to their roots and make a successful multiplayer game. But they just need a massive reality check. And we've been saying it for the longest time. You can see from the post, dude. Fucking a lot of people want to see this happen. Every time I talk about Outbreak, people lose their mind. They want to see it again. It reminds me of pre-RE2 remake times where people wanted to see that Resident Evil 2 remake. This is the time, Capcom. Please invest your efforts into making a survival horror multiplayer game in the vein a la Resident Evil Outbreak. And that's all I've got to say today, guys. So thank you so much for tuning into this video, and we will see you in the next one.